It was just an ordinary Tuesday morning. The kind where nothing special is supposed to happen. I was heading down my front steps to get the mail when suddenly my foot caught on something. In that split second, I knew I was going down, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. The pain was indescribable. Lying there on the cold concrete, unable to move, I knew something was seriously wrong. One moment I was an active, independent 67-year-old woman, and the next I was calling out for help, completely vulnerable. The diagnosis was clear: a fractured hip. And just like that, my life changed completely. Nobody prepares you for how the simplest tasks become mountains to climb after a hip fracture. The hospital stay was difficult, but coming home, that's when reality truly hit me. Getting dressed became this elaborate, painful choreography. Bending was impossible. Reaching down to pull up pants, forget about it. Even something as basic as putting on underwear required assistance from my daughter, Jennifer. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed one morning, staring at my closet full of clothes that might as well have been on another planet. My favorite jeans, my comfortable slacks, even my pajama bottoms, all of them. Suddenly impossible to wear without help. The elastic waistbands that I thought were forgiving enough weren't designed for someone who couldn't bend at the hip. That feeling of dependency, of needing help for something so personal as dressing yourself. It chips away at your dignity in ways I never imagined. I'd always been the caregiver, the one helping others. Now I couldn't even dress myself without calling for assistance. The physical pain was difficult, but honestly, the emotional impact hit me harder. Depression crept in quietly at first. I'd avoid calls from friends suggesting lunch dates because the thought of getting dressed and presentable seemed overwhelming. I started wearing the same loose nightgown day after day. It was the only thing I could manage somewhat independently, even though it made me feel like I'd given up. My world started shrinking to the four walls of my bedroom and the path to the bathroom. My daughter noticed, of course. She'd come by every morning to help me dress, and I could see the worry in her eyes. "Mom, this isn't like you," she said one day. "You've always taken pride in how you look." She was right. Before the fall, I'd never leave the house without being properly dressed. I loved my accessories, my coordinated outfits. Now I was living in a nightgown, feeling less like myself with each passing day. The worst part was feeling like a burden. Jennifer has her own family, her own life. Yet here she was, coming over every morning and evening, helping her mother with tasks a toddler can manage. The guilt was overwhelming. About 3 weeks into my recovery, Jennifer arrived with a package. "I've been researching something," she said, that determined look on her face that she's had since childhood when she's found a solution to a problem. Inside the package were 2 pairs of pants, unlike any I'd owned before. They looked like regular slacks from the front, one black pair, one navy, but when she turned them around, I saw they were completely different in the back. They had overlapping fabric panels instead of a traditional seam. "They're called adaptive pants, Mom," Jennifer explained. "Specifically designed for people recovering from hip surgery or with limited mobility. You don't have to step into them or pull them up. They wrap around you while you're sitting or lying down." I was skeptical, I won't lie. How could pants that looked this normal be that different? But Jennifer was persistent. "Just try them," she urged. She demonstrated how they worked, laying them on the bed, helping me position myself, then wrapping the panels around and securing them with simple Velcro closures. No bending, no balancing on one leg, no pulling or tugging. For the first time in weeks, I got dressed without pain, without feeling helpless, without needing someone to essentially dress me like a child. I looked in the mirror and saw myself again, not a patient, not an invalid, but me. In real clothes. Standing taller, despite the walker still firmly in my grasp. That moment, that was the turning point in my recovery. Once Jennifer introduced me to those first adaptive pants, a whole new world opened up. I became almost obsessive about researching what else was out there. It turns out adaptive clothing has come incredibly far from the institutional-looking options of the past. I discovered magnetic closures, replacing impossible buttons. Clothes with higher backs and lower fronts, designed specifically for wheelchair users. Wrap dresses that don't require overhead movement. Pants with full-length side zippers. Shoes that close with a single pull of a strap instead of laces. One of my favorite finds was a beautiful blouse that looked completely conventional. From the front, but opened entirely in the back with hidden snaps. I could just slip my arms in and snap it closed, no overhead movement required, which was still difficult with my hip recovery. For the first time, I understood how thoughtful design could be liberating. These weren't just clothes, they were tools for independence. Every magnetic closure, every side-opening seam, every adjustable feature was created by someone who understood the challenges of dressing with physical limitations. I ordered a few more pieces, a side-zip skirt, a wrap-style dress, and those amazing front closure bras that I didn't have to contort myself to fasten. Each new garment gave me back a piece of my independence. The most surprising thing, most of these clothes didn't look adaptive at all. They looked like regular, stylish clothing. No one would ever know they were specially designed unless I chose to share that information. With my small but growing adaptive wardrobe, my daily routine transformed. Getting dressed went from a dreaded 45-minute ordeal that left me exhausted and often in tears to a 10-minute process I could mostly manage myself. This had a domino effect on my recovery. With more energy preserved and less pain from struggling. With conventional clothing, I was more willing to do my physical therapy exercises. I started leaving the house more, first just for doctor appointments, then for short walks around the neighborhood, and eventually for lunch with friends. My physical therapist noticed the difference right away. "You're moving with more confidence," she said during one session. "And I notice you're wearing real clothes now, not just sweatpants." I explained about the adaptive clothing, and she was fascinated. She told me many of her patients struggle with dressing during recovery, but few know about these options. She even asked me for the websites I'd ordered from so she could recommend them to other patients. The practical benefits extended beyond just getting dressed. Because I could manage more independently, Jennifer didn't need to come over twice a day anymore. Our relationship shifted back from caregiver-patient to mother-daughter. We could spend our time together, talking and enjoying each other's company, instead of dealing with basic needs. I also slept better. It sounds strange, but the anxiety about the morning dressing struggle had been keeping me awake. Without that looming dread, I could relax and get the rest my body needed to heal. I won't sugarcoat it, adaptive clothing often costs more than conventional options. That first pair of adaptive pants Jennifer brought me was nearly twice the price of my regular slacks. It's an investment, and one that not everyone recovering from surgery or living with disability can easily make. I was fortunate. I had savings and a daughter who was willing to help with the initial purchases. But as I researched more, I learned about the financial reality many face when needing specialized clothing. Some insurance plans will cover adaptive clothing under durable medical equipment if prescribed by a doctor, but this is rare and often involves complicated paperwork. Medicare generally doesn't cover these items, considering them personal clothing rather than medical necessities. I joined some online forums for people recovering from hip surgery and found many discussions about the cost barriers. Some people shared DIY modifications for regular clothes, adding Velcro to seams, converting buttons to magnetic closures, adding zipper extensions for easier grasping. Others mentioned searching second-hand options or specialized loan closets where gently used adaptive clothing is available. There are also some nonprofits working to make these garments more accessible to those with limited means. The cost issue highlights a bigger problem. Accessibility isn't just about physical environments, it's also about the tools and products that enable independence. For something as fundamental as clothing, there should be affordable options for everyone who needs them. Despite the higher upfront cost, I found adaptive clothing to be surprisingly durable. The reinforced seams and quality materials stood up to repeated washing and wearing. In some ways, they proved to be better investments than some of my fast fashion purchases of the past. 6 months after my fall, I was largely recovered. I could move more freely, bend, and had returned to most of my normal activities. Technically, I could go back to my regular wardrobe. But something had changed in me. I developed a new appreciation for thoughtful design and the way it can empower people. I kept many of my adaptive pieces in regular rotation, especially on days when arthritis flared up or when I was feeling fatigued. More importantly, I couldn't unsee the challenges that so many face permanently. My temporary mobility issues gave me just a glimpse into the daily reality for millions of people with permanent disabilities or chronic conditions. I started noticing accessibility issues everywhere: stores without ramps, products with packaging impossible to open with limited hand strength, clothing designed with form completely overriding function. This new awareness led me to volunteer with a local organization that helps seniors remain independent in their homes. I specifically focus on helping them find adaptive products, including clothing, that can make daily tasks easier. I've become something of an adaptive clothing evangelist, showing my friends my wrap pants and magnetic closure cardigans, explaining how these thoughtful design elements can benefit anyone with arthritis, temporary injuries, or just the normal challenges of aging bodies. One friend with rheumatoid arthritis cried when I showed her how magnetic closures could replace the buttons she struggled with daily. She had been wearing only pullover tops for years, limiting her wardrobe and professional appearance. Such a simple solution, but one she hadn't known existed. What began as a personal solution to my recovery challenges opened my eyes to a whole movement I'd never noticed before. Adaptive fashion is gaining momentum, with both specialized companies and mainstream brands beginning to offer inclusive designs. Major retailers like Tommy Hilfiger, Nike, and Target have launched adaptive lines in recent years. Fashion schools are starting to include adaptive design in their curricula. Runway shows featuring models with disabilities showcase how style and function can beautifully coexist. This isn't just about clothes. It's about dignity, inclusion, and the recognition that design should serve diverse human bodies and needs. The adaptive fashion movement challenges the industry to think beyond the standard template and consider how garments actually function in real lives. I've followed with interest as advocates push for more representation in fashion, from design teams that include people with disabilities to marketing that showcases diverse bodies. The most effective adaptive clothing comes from collaborative design, people with lived experience of disability working alongside skilled designers. As our population ages, the need for thoughtfully designed clothing will only grow. What serves someone recovering from hip surgery also serves someone with arthritis, Parkinson's disease, or the normal dexterity changes that come with aging. The innovations emerging now, from magnetic closures to sensory-friendly fabrics, from seated wear designs to smart garments that monitor health, represent just the beginning of what's possible when we design with inclusion in mind. My story began with a fall, a sudden, unwelcome change that threatened my independence and sense of self. But through the discovery of adaptive clothing, it became a journey toward greater awareness and appreciation for inclusive design. Those first adaptive pants didn't just help me get dressed, they helped me reclaim my dignity, preserve my energy for healing, and maintain my connection to the world beyond my recovery room. They were more than garments, they were tools for independence. If you're recovering from surgery, managing a chronic condition, or caring for someone with mobility challenges, I hope my experience encourages you to explore adaptive clothing options. What worked for me might not be exactly what you need, but I'm certain there are designs out there that could make your daily life easier. For those fortunate enough to dress without thinking about it each morning, I invite you to consider how something as basic as clothing can be either a barrier or a bridge to independence. Perhaps you have a loved one who struggles with buttons, zippers, or traditional clothing designs who might benefit from knowing these options exist. The clothes we wear affect how we feel, how we present ourselves to the world, and how much energy we have for the things that truly matter. Everyone deserves access to clothing that serves their needs while honoring their dignity and personal style. My hip has healed, but my perspective has been permanently altered. I now understand that independence isn't just about physical ability, it's also about having the right tools and designs that work with our bodies, whatever their capabilities may be. That's the power of adaptive design. That's the difference thoughtful clothing can make. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. And if you know someone who might benefit from learning about adaptive clothing options, please share this video with them. Sometimes, the solutions we need most are simply the ones we don't yet know exist. Thank you for listening to my story. Here's to clothing that works for every body, through every stage of life's journey.